Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever in the world you are connecting from. And we continue with our Hacking HR interview series, bringing amazing friends, amazing thought leaders, and to discuss with us, to give us ideas about how to handle all that's going on and how to think about the possibilities for the future as well. And I want to thank you for being connected with us today. Please let us know where you are connecting from in the world. And just for everybody to know, all the oops, this is always that I always tell my guests, please make sure that if you're watching the LinkedIn Live, your phone or whatever it is muted, and I don't do it myself. It's
No,
it's
that's
like
funny.
it's like we always do the same thing, right? So please tell us know where you're connecting from in the world. And I wanted to let you know that we are all of the things that we're doing, all of the interviews and all of the workshops and all of the events that we're doing, we're posting all the videos on our YouTube channel. So please follow us on YouTube and make sure that you get some time to watch some of the things that we have posted, because there's great knowledge, great ideas, great information, great insights out there. So today I have my friend Eric Termuende with us from connecting from Vancouver. Eric, how's it going, man?
Hey, Enrique, good to see you, man. And thanks so much for having me on today. I'm excited to have a chat and see what we come up with.
Absolutely, it's good to see you. We saw each other in December. We met in person in Detroit. We
Hmm.
were both in a
Hmm.
program together. And who would have thought that the world was going to be so dramatically changed in just a period of 4 or 5 months, right? I mean, do you ever imagine like having to transform your entire business operation, which is basically speaking and traveling all over the world in such a short period of time?
Yeah, I mean, look, I went from 100 flights last year to expecting to not get on a plane again this year. I spent, I think 140 days on the road last year. I've been in the same city for the last 9 weeks. I haven't been in one spot this long in my life. Well, aside from growing up, my professional career. So no, I mean, look, I think more change has happened in the last 9 weeks than arguably the last almost 9 years,
Yeah.
and you know there are a lot of ways we can look at it. Sure, it's big, and sure it's scary, and sure it's going to take a lot to get used to. And I mean, I've been victim of very bad days. That's for sure. But someone shared with me, one of my mentors. He said, "What if this event, with respect to your career, was exactly what you needed to get you where you wanted to go next faster?" It's like,
Wow.
huh? You know, I let that sit for a second. And I thought, okay, maybe we can actually use this time, this downtime, this change time, this new time, this time for discovery, this time for creation, this time for possibility to come up with something great. And I think that if we can apply that frame of thought, regardless of what our position is, regardless of the size of our organization, our profit status, where we're working, how we're working, then maybe we can apply this to be something great. And when we look back on this turbulent change, we can be really proud of how we came out of it.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And it is just take the example of what just happened a few minutes ago. I always tell people, put your phones on mute if you're watching the thing online. I just didn't do it myself. I forgot, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we're telling people, take it easy, and or try to take it easy, see the gift, the silver lining of all these very difficult times that we're going through. But I do
Mm-hmm.
understand that it's difficult, man. I mean, for somebody like you whose business, is mainly or mostly speaking and being on the road,
Mm-hmm.
your entire
Mm-hmm.
business has been disrupted, and has been disrupted for a long time, because who knows when we're going to be able to go back to something like what we had before. So, how do you manage the emotional component of it? And how do you connect that with your very original idea of the 1 degree shift, like the smaller
Mm-hmm.
things that you start doing day to day, and then in the long term, the compounding effect of that makes the bigger picture actually happen?
Yeah. Well, you made me think about this specifically. And here we are, late May. If I remember my contract right, I should actually, at this second, be on the stage speaking to a corporate group in Barbados. I'm not
And
in
you're in
Barbados right
Vancouver.
now. Which, hey, it's a great spot.
It's sunny today.
It's not Barbados. It's not Barbados. So we've been thrown this curveball and a changeup and a fastball and a slider. It seems all at the same time, and I don't know what I'm swinging at. And all I can really do, and we talked about this sort of before we got on the interview, is be concerned about the things that I can control and not the things that I can't. So what does it look like practically? I can control how much sleep I get, how much food and what the quality of food I put in my body. I can control what time I get up and how many times I hit the snooze button. I can control how many kilometers or miles I run or walk or cycle in a day. I can control some of the conversations that I have with my people, with my significant other, with my family. I can pick up the phone and check in on my friends, which every time makes me feel better too. I can create new content. I can write. I can research. I can read. I can interview. I can really fill my days so that they're incredibly productive. Now, with that being said, I'm not doing anything on Fridays right now because I want to be able to look back at this time and think, wow, I actually got a bit of a break in there too. You know, it's been 6 years on the road, 300 stages, hundreds of flights, millions of miles. And maybe this was a break that was needed to come. But when we look at this 1 degree shift mentality, I've got this philosophy, which rings more true now than ever before, that we can't predict the future. I mean, maybe I'll just ask you, have you ever won a scratch and win lottery ticket before, like $1, $2, $5, $10? You know, you're scratching that thing and you have no idea if you're going to win or not. And we're talking like 2 seconds difference. You know, I had a flat tire before and I couldn't tell you when I was going to get the flat tire or not until it actually happened. Yet we're so busy trying to predict and plan 5 and 10 years down the road. It's not that it's a waste of time. It's that we have to realize that the goalposts are going to change, that the definition of what success looks and feels like is going to be different. I mean, how many of us had our KPIs and our annual strategic plans tossed out the window on March 13th? I'll tell you what, the NBA and the NHL sure did. The MLB sure did. And that's not to, include any of our organizations too. So what I like to say, and the approach that I like to take, similar to what you alluded to, is sort of this 1 degree shift approach. Instead of saying, how do we radically change? Because coronavirus did that for us. What is the smallest viable change we can make over and over and over again? Again, like we said, focusing on the things that we can control and not the things that we can't. What is the smallest thing that we can change right now to get us to what we perceive to be success tomorrow? And so let's just put this into more practical terms. Let's just say hypothetically the scale is reading 10 pounds more than it should. And I'm thinking, oh man, I need to lose a couple pounds. Instead of saying, I'm going to go on a crash diet, throw everything out the window and hate my life for the next 3 months. What is the one thing that I can change? Maybe I'm not going to put sugar in my coffee today. Okay. And that'll save me 25 calories. Maybe tomorrow I'm not going to put creamer in my coffee. Maybe the day after I'm going to put half the amount of dressing on my salad. Maybe the day after that I'll take out the pine nuts from my salad. Maybe I'll put a little less mayonnaise on my sandwich, and maybe I'll switch to whole wheat bread. And if we can continue to make these smallest viable changes over and over and over again, and it's not radical, it's not turbulent, it's very controlled, calculated, and can be built into a lifestyle more easily. Now, when we apply this to the workplace and when we look at workplace culture, what we've seen is we've been thrown into this new normal. That's not a 1 degree shift at all. It's about a 180 degree shift. But what we found is that many people are now working remote, working flex, working on a default Zoom. And now that's when we start our 1 degree shifts from this, what I would say, new normal. And the most practical advice that I can give to people is to start a meeting first thing in the morning with the team, 5-10 minutes, nothing too significant, and ask the team 3 questions. The first question is, what should we start doing? Because there's no doubt over the last few weeks, we've picked up some great practices that we haven't tried yet. Let's try it, okay? Yeah. The second is, what should we stop doing? If we're thrown into this new normal and we're saying, okay, here's what we're going to do. This is going to be great. And unfortunately, it's not, because we haven't tested it yet. Yeah. So it's okay to stop practices that aren't best practices. And the third is, what should we continue doing? Because there undoubtedly are going to be a lot of things that are going really well. And if we know what's working and we can validate what we've implemented, we can validate those experiments, then I think that we can get closer to building a new normal. Now, I'm going to say one more thing, because I think this is really important, especially with respect to workplace culture. I'm of the belief that over the last 9 weeks, we have seen the greatest decentralization of culture that has ever occurred. Now, no doubt, in every organization, you're going to have mission, vision, values. You're going to have the logos, the brands, the beliefs, the traditions of every company. No kidding. I get that. But what I've learned to be true is that in the last 8 weeks, many of us haven't seen the colors of the company. We haven't been in the boardroom and seen the mission, vision, values on the wall. We haven't talked to different departments. We haven't talked to senior leadership. We haven't seen anyone in the elevators. We haven't crossed anyone in the hallways or in the lunchroom. Where our culture lives now is with us and our immediate team leader and the immediate people on our team. Because where we might have seen 40 or 50 or even 60 people in the office throughout the day, now, Enrique, it's you and I one-on-one. There's nobody around here. And we're going to have this chat maybe for an hour. That's like 7% of my day. And so because the amount of people that we interact with are fewer, because the way we work is different, culture, I think more so now than ever before, lives at that team level. And when we can create tomorrow's greatest places to work, when we can make those 1 degree shifts as a team, then I believe we can optimize that experience for wherever we are so that everyone can enjoy what they're doing and who they're doing it with.
No, that is powerful, and you're absolutely right. I love this idea. Sorry, I love this idea of decentralized culture, because now everybody's living and putting into practice the culture, or transforming and creating it as we go. Because to be honest, nobody has been in this place before where we are today, and many organizations are creating the things as we go, and that culture. And the new leadership models, the new operating models, the new ways to work, they are being created across the board by the entire organization. Because I don't think HR or any business leader is capable of telling people today how to do things, because they don't even know themselves how to do things. Right?
There's no playbook. There's no best practices. We create them.
Yeah. Absolutely. Let me go back to this idea of 1 degree shift. And once again, thank you, Eric, for being with me today. Everybody who's connected online, we have people from all over the world, and we're talking with Eric Termuende. He is a thought leader, global speaker, who now is hunkered down in Vancouver, now doing his speaking engagements online. And what a privilege to have him with us today. If you have any questions for him, please post it on the chat. I'm monitoring all that you are sharing with us. So if you have any questions for him, please let us know. Eric, let me go back to this idea of 1 degree shift. There's this misconception that to achieve something, you gotta go pretty fast, right? I mean, if you said it before, if you want to lose 10 pounds, you want to lose 10 pounds by tomorrow. And if you want to become, I'm a competitive runner. And for me, it becomes frustrating that if I want to run a 1 minute mile faster, then I cannot achieve it by tomorrow. I have to put a lot of training, I have to put a lot of effort and a lot of work to make that happen. And it can become frustrating to think that to achieve some of those things that we want to achieve, they require day-to-day small things, some of them new practices, some of them sacrifices, the stop, start, continue kind of approach. So what do you tell people that are used to thinking that they can achieve things super quickly, but in reality, that's not how things are achieved in real life? You gotta go, there's a process for everything. And no matter how much you want to accelerate that process, sometimes it doesn't happen that way. The world doesn't move at our pace. It moves at a different pace. So what's your message to that kind? That's for myself too, by the way. So it's for everybody.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question. I'm just trying to think of an example. Booking.com is a company, travel company out of the Netherlands, and they, of course, were competing with Expedia, Google Flights, all sorts of different competitors in the travel space, and they thought 2 things. Maybe I'll back up and saying innovation, which I think is a really important conversation right now, comes in 2 forms. Number 1 is forced. Think COVID has forced us to innovate. Number 2, innovation is chosen, where we can choose to get further ahead and excel and succeed. again, I'll go back and saying COVID has very much forced us to innovate, because if we don't innovate, we're going to die. In many cases, if a speaker can't go to virtual and they're not going to get on stages, there's no income. If a company that's brick and mortar can't go to retail while all the shops are closed, there's going to be no revenue, full stop. You must innovate. And that's what COVID has told us to do. Now, there are many organizations, though, who have gone online pre-COVID. And the reason that they did that is because they chose to innovate. They chose to make those 1 degree shifts over and over, pilot, test, and try new things. Booking.com does that too, because what they tried, if you and I were both to go on Booking.com right now, we would see a different landing page, because every day they test 1 million different landing pages for everyone who's on the site. And over and over and over, they slowly optimize it so that it performs better, so the conversion rate is higher, so that the click-through rate is higher, so that people ultimately book more on Booking.com than they do anywhere else. Now, they do that not because they're forced to, but because they choose to innovate. And when we want to choose to innovate and do something different, I think it requires this culture of experimentation, this culture of learning rather than failure, and this ability to be psychologically safe with the people that we're ultimately spending the majority of our day with. So how do you do it? How do you make these 1 degree shifts? Well, I think the first thing we have to do is identify where friction points are. Like, where's the thing that we're struggling with? And struggling with, in many cases, implies forced innovation. But there could be an opportunity to say, where's that blue ocean strategy, or where's that blue sky that we can really shoot for? Not to say, what are the competitors doing, but what might it be possible for us to do? And then taking those small pilot projects and testing different things with different people to see what that feedback is going to be, and then ultimately acting on it. See, actually, one of the best companies in the Fortune 500 over the last 15 years has been Domino's Pizza. Their stock has risen 5,800%, performed better than Amazon, performed better than Facebook. And it's just been incredible. They're trading at $370 a share last I checked. And this all started when they took a lot of feedback from some of the tests they did. And believe it or not, some of their people said their pizza tasted like cardboard, their tomato sauce tasted like ketchup, and their cheese didn't even taste like a dairy product. But they took that feedback and they tweaked and pivoted and brought chefs in from all over the place and developed a brand new Domino's recipe through experimentation, through testing, through making 1 degree shifts in the ingredients, in the time in the oven, and who was putting that all together. And they came out with an incredible product. But they didn't stop there. They thought, okay, our product is pizza, but our delivery mechanism and our technology is really what's going to set us apart. So they chose to continue to innovate over and over and over again. And last I checked, you can order a Domino's pizza 15 different ways. You can do 10 clicks, 5 clicks, 2 clicks, 1 click, no click. You can say, hey, Alexa, or hey, Siri, give me my favorite pizza from Domino's. And what do you know? 25 minutes later, you've got a doorbell ringing with a hot pizza, your favorite, at your door. See, this didn't happen because they said, we need to innovate overnight. No, they took a culture of experimentation, a culture of creation, a desire to remove friction and to choose to innovate to get ahead. And when we do that, when we go on a diet or when we get fit, not because we feel like we have to or our body's in danger, but because we want to feel better, we come at this with an opportunistic frame of mind, and great things truly can happen as a result.
That is powerful, and one of the principles and one of the things that we have been talking about in the HR world is this idea of agility, and agility, which is closely related to the idea of 1 degree shift. It is the dog barking in the background. There was somebody singing back there, by the way.
Amazing.
Yeah, you didn't hear, but I was like, there's somebody singing back there, and it's the forest, that's forest back there. That is so funny.
We got a bonus show today. Yeah,
I know. Maybe they just jump in the conversation and give us a little a cappella kind of thing here.
A little intermission.
Yeah, and I know. So for the HR world, one of the things that we have been talking about is this idea of agility, which is basically building a culture of thinking about processes and systems in kind of smaller pieces, tackling smaller pieces of a problem, tackling smaller pieces of a process, iterating on smaller things, experimenting to see what works, and then moving on to the next thing, which is very, very much what you are saying in in for 1 degree shift. Now, one thing that happens in the HR world, but it also happens in many other areas at work, is that I don't know why or how we always seem to like to have processes and things developed end to end. So we want to see the entire thing built to say we did it, instead of saying like, let me build the smaller functional, part of this process that it can deliver after testing and making sure that it works, and then moving on to the next thing. So why is it that it's so difficult for people to embrace this idea of experimentation, of focusing on the smaller things? And how can we switch that mindset, especially now that, because we don't know what's going to happen in the next 5 hours from now. We don't even know. I mean, we say like, let's think about the future. We don't even know what's going to happen in 5 hours from now. So we can't really design anything for a future that goes anywhere beyond 1 week or a couple of weeks. So how can we switch that mindset?
Well, theoretically, I think it's really easy. In practice, I think it's a little bit harder. But I think there's two reasons why it doesn't happen. Number one, we're all looking for that promotion, right? And when we take this little incremental approach and not play the long game, well, my promotion might be in jeopardy. I mean, look, we're all trying to put food on the table, keep a roof over our head. I think that means it's a leadership decision, right? It's how we approach developing the business. And I think when that cascades down throughout the organization, then that acceptability of the long game is really important. Now, on that note, tenure is shorter than it's ever been before too. I mean, if somebody's in a company for 18, 24 months, is there time to play the long game?
Yeah.
I mean, you might be spending the first 8 months mastering the job in the first place. That means you've got 10 left to build something great. Well, I'm not sure about that, which then tells me that there's a recruiting problem too, because still the average job description is 250 to 300 words. It doesn't describe the job really. It describes the skills and requirements you need to do it. It doesn't describe the people that you're going to be working with, what that team looks like. It doesn't describe performance management and feedback. So I think we've got a systemic issue in that there's a recruiting issue. We've got this archaic system that we use to attract and retain top talent. We talk about the keg and the ping pong table, which, by the way, nobody's seen for 9 weeks. So the perks and the benefits are out the window. We can't even differentiate ourselves on that. We can't talk about the bean bags or the dogs that are running around the office because we haven't seen those either. So attracting top talent is nearly impossible too. But going back to this long game, this experimentation approach, I think the real answer is that we don't like to fail. We don't like to be wrong. The truth is that 99% of these pilots are likely going to very much fail. We talk about the venture capitalist world, that if a VC gets 1 out of 10 investments right, they're doing awesome, because that one investment they get right is 100x. And they're going to do just fine on everything that they've lost. But we don't take that mentality in HR. We don't take that mentality in any of the work that we do, really, because we don't like to fail. We haven't set up that environment to fail. And I think that that's why it's even more important to take this 1 degree shift approach, because when we can fail smaller, it doesn't hurt as much and we learn faster, right? I'll give you another example. In 2009, Post cereal, like the breakfast cereal, was really struggling with one of their more nostalgic brands. It was called Shreddies. Now, it's a Canadian cereal, but it's a lot like Chex, very similar. And when they did all their focus groups, they found that there's this nostalgia attached to the brand. Oh, my parents had that cereal, or my grandparents had that cereal, but that's not for me. It's an older brand. And so what they did is they said, let's experiment with some new marketing tactics. What can we do to try and really revive this brand? Turns out that it went to a 26-year-old intern who said, let's turn the Shreddies, which are square Chex-like cereal, 45 degrees so that they're diamonds. They launched that campaign with diamond Shreddies. They did focus groups. They tested it. They ran billboards. They ran bus ads. They ran stadium ads. They saw that Shreddies actually jumped 18% over the next quarter because they released this new, refreshed, exciting diamond Shreddies. Enrique, they didn't change the product. They just changed how they approached it. Now, this isn't a 1 degree shift. In this case, it's a 45 degree shift. But the fact remains, when we try these little things, test it with the market, and get feedback. In their case, they did really well. It was a multi-million-dollar initiative that started by just twist.
There are a couple of things in there that I think are so important that I want to bring up to the table, and one of them is first, they relied on somebody in their team to do that, which is really, really important because all of this process of change, I'm sure that you've done this, you've seen so many companies bringing, so much consulting work when very often the intellectual power to make changes relies within them. Yes, you need somebody to help you provide some level of framework, which is part of the work you do, part of the work that I do. But generally, if you go to the intern, they may have a great idea to make things happen. And then, so that's one thing, relying on your teams that are very knowledgeable about your company, and they want the company to succeed. They don't want the company to fail. And then the second thing is how cheap that must have been, just to basically call the designer and say, switch this thing from being a square to being a diamond, 45 degrees, and let's put another marketing campaign out there. So I love this idea because very often people think about innovation as an expensive process, not only because of the possibility of failure, but because of the actual implementation of the innovation process. And I love that you are putting examples that are, doable and familiar to everybody.
Yeah, let me just share with you this. This is my favorite quote that sort of summarizes this conversation. Thomas Edison was quoted in saying, on the 10,000th try when he invented the light bulb, he didn't say I failed 9,999 times. He said, I figured out 9,999 ways to not make a light bulb. Now, here's the thing. We don't take that approach. We don't say we learned how to not do it. We said we failed doing it right. Yeah. And that's a big difference in mindset, in ego, in morale, in pride. But how long did it take you to run your first marathon? I mean, not overnight.
Nope.
Not even in the first week or month, right? I mean, I did one last year. It took me 3-4 months to train for. But I don't think that we're building this resilience in ourselves to master or to be great at much anymore. And I'm not generalizing or poking anyone specifically, but I'm saying when 10 years shorter than it's ever been before, when not many of us, I mean, I even look at kids are playing less musical instruments than they have before. Fewer people are playing golf than they ever have before. These things that take a long time to master, we don't have the patience for. Yeah. And so it's those companies like, let's say 3M, when they built the sticky papers or
took them a long time.
Took them a long time. But here's the kicker, Enrique, we don't hear about all the tries that they failed to make it. Hundreds, thousands. Yeah. We only hear about the time they got it right. And the time that they got it right paid for 100 times over all the times that they didn't. And I think that when we can take that mentality moving forward to create culture. I mean, somebody asked me yesterday, how do you preserve workplace culture? I'm thinking, what? What do you mean? Like you've preserved watching DVDs or VHSs? No, you don't preserve anything. You continue to create, to evolve, to grow together. Yeah. And the sooner we can decentralize that process, whether it's a 26-year-old intern that's turning the shreddies somewhere or senior management and how that trickles down, this new world of work is going to require, it's not just going to be nice to have, it's going to require everyone to be a part of it, to be a part of that creation. Yeah. I think that's so important because the perks, sorry, go ahead.
No. I just wanted to add one point very related to the HR world, which is, well, first of all, HR, and I love HR, and everybody knows that, otherwise I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. I love the world of HR. I just think that it's the kind of love that is a little bit of tough love, asking them to, that we can, there's a potential that we have as a function that we haven't reached in 120 years, and now we have the biggest opportunity to make it happen. And we've been talking a lot over the past I'm gonna say probably 5 years about agile HR, but it's following what you're saying. It's not just building an agile function; it's building the capabilities that allows us to be agile over time. Because your one process, maybe you come to HR or to your senior management and you say, I designed this process following an agile methodology. So that your work will not be to preserve that process. Your work will be to make sure that you have the capabilities built in to make sure that that process remains relevant over time. And that means that you're going to have to change it over time. So agility and changing is not just a one-time thing in life. It's something that you continue to do over and over and over again. And I've been in workplaces where they change something and they celebrate the changes, and they preserve what they did for years. And
We
that's
did it.
Yeah, we did it. Okay, let's leave it. Let's put it in a little, kind of like thing in a
little trophy
museum,
case.
and
Yeah.
we leave it in there, right? And it's that's not the way it works. So
That's right.
I love that you're inspiring people not only to think about smaller changes, but also to build the capabilities to make those changes, over and over and over time, if you will. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I'll say this. One of the things that's really frustrated me about the future of work conversation is that many of us like to think that the future of work looks and feels one way. The future of work, I would invite those who are listening to consider this. The future of work is not a destination. The future of work is a leadership style. And I don't think many of us are thinking of it that way. 2 years ago, we said, well, the future of work is going to be remote and flexible and customized. Yeah, sure. Or it's not. We look at the essential workers that have been keeping our basic needs alive and well over the last nine weeks. We're talking 28% of the working population, give or take, right? Mm-hmm. Their work hasn't changed. You go to the bank, nothing's changed. You go to the grocery store, nothing's changed. You keep you 6 feet. You have a piece of plexiglass in front of you. You might wear a mask and some gloves, but they're still scanning the food item, chucking in the buttons when you got your produce, and out you go at the same door you came in. Nothing's really changing that much. Sure, new innovative ways of getting your groceries, like delivery services, are going to come up. But when we look at the future of work for a banker versus a delivery truck driver versus a grocery store worker, it's not going to change that much. Now we see Facebook, we see Microsoft, we see Shopify, we see Twitter. We're all going remote. I had friends that never left the office in the last 9 weeks. Look, I was actually walking through Stanley Park here in Vancouver. They had the horse-drawn carriages that were carrying people around. We talk about the future of work. Are you kidding me? And then I went to go pick up a digital camera. Guess what the sign was advertising? Vinyl records. Come on. We talk about the future of work like we can't preserve some of the great things that work that serve our customers already.
Yeah.
The future of work isn't one thing. The future of work isn't a prescribable destination. The future of work is a leadership style that allows us to understand our people, understand our customers, and serve both of them as effectively as possible. If that requires moving remote or moving flexible, then that's probably what the future of work will look like for them. If it means going back to the office, being as collaborative and integrated as possible, of course, while staying safe, that's what the future of work looks like for them.
Yeah.
But I think we get this scarcity mindset where, we can't be that because that's not who we are. Well, great. Don't be that.
Yeah.
The best place to work, according to Fortune magazine in 2020, is a Hilton hotel chain. Yeah. The second best place to work is Ultimate Software. Yeah. I don't think the people that work at Hilton would want to work at Ultimate Software, and the people at Ultimate Software would want to work at Hilton, but they're both great places to work. Yeah. And I think when we compare us and our people to someone that we're not, we're never going to feel good about it.
Yeah.
You want to create the best future of work? Start talking to your people. Start talking to your customers. Try those 1 degree shifts. Get that feedback and build what's right for you. And when we do that, I think the future is incredibly bright. It's incredibly optimistic. And I think we can get some of our best work done than we ever have before.
Yeah, no, and I love that. One thing that's been sort of a commonplace of all my conversations is the idea of flexibility. And, because for so long, we in the workplace, we put people in boxes. And those boxes were, policies, norms, rules and whatnot. And I'm not saying that they are not important. I'm just saying that these days, because of the uncertainty of what's going on and what will continue to go on, for the many, many months to come, I think part of the role of the workplace and HR is to provide a basic framework that allows people to operate. I mean, you want to let people work from home. Maybe you want to let them work at whatever time, but they still have to, log in some time of work, right? It's not just that they will be watching Netflix, during their work time. For example, one person like me, I don't care that much of what time people work. I just care about the results. So you provide some level of framework that allows them to operate, in some small level of consistency, but in between, you leave a lot of flexibility for them to define how they want to operate and how they want to adapt to these new times. And that is something very novel for HR, to be honest, because in HR, the same way we think about processes, which is defining them or developing them end to end, we think that the processes have to define every single thing that can happen in the workplace. Well, if Eric came late and he was wearing flip-flops in the workplace, what happens? And if Eric comes early but he's wearing shorts, what happens? Like those kind of things, we don't need those kind of things anymore. So, maybe they work for some workplaces, but to me, the point is that when you think about building flexible workplaces and flexibility in your processes, you are allowing yourself to become the Hilton, if that makes sense for you, or to become the ultimate software, if that's what makes sense for you. Yeah. So.
Yeah. I mean, look, even within Hilton, though, you're going to have the bell people. You're going to have the people making the rooms and cleaning the rooms. You're going to have the check-in service. You're going to have the valet. You're going to have the restaurants. You're going to have every different aspect of the business. And I would even go so far to say, even within Hilton, people wouldn't want to work in different departments in the same hotel. Yeah. And so I think actually, from an HR perspective, it's your opportunity to empower teams to be as great as they can be, depending on what works for them. And if that means being time-based from 9 to 5, because that's what works best for them, empower that team to do that. Yeah. If it means being results-based, empower that team to do that. Yeah. Now, look, we hear a lot about the beauty of remote and flex work, that we can get an hour, maybe 2 hours of our day back from our commute. But one of the negative side effects of this remote and flex work that we've already seen is that people are working upwards of 3 hours a day more, in some cases upwards of 40% longer. Really? Yeah. Look, when we talk about the future of perks and benefits, because they're not going to be physical anymore, I think really what we're going to look at, the best perk we can give people is customization, is time, is truly to understand, look, are we a default Zoom company, or can we still pick up the phone and just call each other, or can we use Slack, or can we still send emails? Because I think there's a lot of like Zoom guilt going around. If it's not a Zoom chat, we don't want to like actually connect with the other individual. No, I mean, might have been on Zoom for 7 hours today. I don't want to be on it for another 3. No offense to anyone that I'm talking to, right? Yeah. And I think that when we can give people time, structure, clarity on their role and what they're expected to do, how liberating, how incredible is that to enable people to be their best, how they are their best, when they want to be their best, and still get the job done because they're respectful, accountable, professional adults. Mind-boggling. Yeah,
and that once again, to me, that very much boils down to flexibility, to the fact that we can't design anything anymore for everybody at the same time. It never worked in the past. I mean, it's only that we didn't care that much about it. Now, we have to understand that because of all that's going on, we can't really transfer the things that we did in the workplace just 3 months ago to the things that we have to be doing in the workplace today. Maybe, for the working parents, they used to leave their, drop their kids in school at, I don't know, 8 a.m. and they would be available for work at 9 a.m. in the office. Now, those same parents have to be connecting their kids to their Zoom calls for their teachers, their online classes and whatnot at 9 a.m. So they may not be available anymore at 9 a.m. So that's a small change that you need to consider to build culture, but also to make sure that you're providing enough flexibility for your workplace to continue operating, that whatever worked in the past may not be working or may not work right now. And you have to think with a lot of flexibility to continue operating, but in this different set of circumstances.
Well, that's the 1 degree shift, isn't it?
That it is.
Just
it
those
is
little changes,
and it's
over
so small.
And over again.
It is like the 45 degree thing. It is like, you know what, Eric? I know you got couple of kids, which I know you don't, but you got a couple of kids, Eric, and in the past we used to meet every day or every couple of days for our staff meetings at 9 a.m. We're gonna switch the meeting now to 10:30 a.m. because that's the time that works best for everybody, especially those who are working parents and now working from home. That is 45 degrees shifting the freaking serial thing, and it's cheap, it's easy to do, and it's a 1 degree shift. It's something so meaningful yet so small that you can definitely make it happen. Are you going to show us something in there?
I'm going to show you something in here because this is, I think, the lifeline.
Is that a journal?
When I'm talking to different clients or team members or agents, in my case, I've got this page where I write down the name of the individual and keep it in alphabetical order. and things that I know about them personally. Okay, so they might have 2 kids that they've shared with me. One might be in grade 5, one might be in grade 7. They might have a favorite dessert. They might play golf. They might go for hikes or runs. And before a call with them, I might refer back to that page and see what I know about that person, so I can ask them before our call starts, hey, how's your son and daughter? How is it being a chef, a teacher, a daycare attendant, a sports instructor, and a coach, and doing your job? And I think when we can connect with people on a more personal level, that's when we can build trust faster and know where to start making those shifts. Because if you say, hey, how are your son and daughter? And the reply might be, oh, you know what? Actually, one of them's really sick right now. I'm just trying to juggle everything. Well, the first thing I could say is, you know what? This call isn't actually as important as it needs to be. Why don't you take the hour and we'll connect next week? How's that sound? And they're like, oh my God, thank you so much. This is really actually what I needed right now. Yeah. Nothing gets lost. That work's still going to get done later tonight because that's what they've committed to do, and everything's fine. And we'll chat next week. But because we take the time to write these notes down and to really connect and care with our people and about them, that's when I think we look at the workplace of tomorrow. I think it's really going to be that we connect with people on something deeper than just a work level.
Yeah, I love that, being more human, which is ultimately which I'm hoping comes out of this very complicated time that we're going through, that we become more human, not just as a workplace, by the way, but more human in general. Each of us, because we can practice more, we can be more human, we can practice more humanity at all levels. It's not something that is just exclusive to business leaders or politicians and whatnot. So Eric, it was fascinating to have you, as usual, great conversation. Thank you so much for joining us today. Everybody who is connected online, thank you for being with us in this conversation about 1 Degree Shift. This is Eric Termuende, and he is not only human, incredibly open to connect with a lot of people. I mean, that's how we connected in the first place. We met in person in Vancouver, and so feel free to connect with him. I am sure that he's always very keen to learn more stories and share more ideas with everybody. So thank you everybody for connecting. Eric, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.